Welcome inside episode 473 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Pillar up in the Blue Mountains, and unofficially the longest three-game losing streak in NHL history is over.
And Matt Murray gets his first win of the season. The Sens get their first win of 2022. The vibes are at an all-time high once again, Ross. We had the postcast. Sens hockey is back. Let's go.
We did our Sens Central standouts in that postcast. Today we're going to expand on some bigger stories. You mentioned Matt Murray. Is he back? Or is he just back? And Nick Paul, pending UFA, gets 2 tucks. That whole second line was phenomenal. So what do you do going forward? Keep them together or put Timmy right back in his rightful spot? All that and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Today is Friday, January 14th. The Ottawa Senators pick up a 4-1 victory in Calgary last night. Pilsy, your overall impression on the performance?
Feels great to watch Sens hockey again, and even better to watch a Sens win. And a little cherry on top, I know this story's got water on it, but it's always nice when the little brother gets an edge on the big brother. And Brady, he gets the last laugh on this one, a 4-1 win in Calgary.
Except we don't know what kind of damage Matthew did with that stick swing. Looked like it got him in a pretty sensitive area.
Yeah, no kidding. That's got to be one where after Brady's just like, hey, man, come on.
Come on, man. I know you showed me leather jacket by the Arkells.
Yeah.
Come on, man. You can't be doing that. No, but that was as close as we've gotten to Matthew on Brady crime, which I know people have been clamoring for, especially through the Canadian division last year when they played every other game, it felt like. Although Ottawa had their number. So bring us the Calgary Flames more often, please. And thank you. I'm not excited for Edmonton. We'll preview that game later on in today's show. But that was a great moment right out front of the net. You could tell Matthew was frustrated. He got the Flames' only goal, but it was 4-1 late. Battle in front of the net. And Brady just manhandled him. Like, there was no fight back at all. Matthew goes for a tumble, and then all of a sudden, here comes Big Brother saying, you can't knock me down, and just swings a stick and gets whatever part of Brady he could.
Yeah, I mean, Chantel is probably going to give him a little timeout when they get back home for whatever holiday is coming up next year.
Well, I'll just say that Matthew got the first call after the game from Chantel saying,
yes.
Hey, it's just like the refs, right? They always get the retaliation, not always the first play of the game. But the refs were a non-story last night, which was great. I didn't notice them at all, and that's what when you know you've got a good hockey game. And as a goalie-friendly show, you've got a great hockey game when your $6.25 million Tendy plays just like it. Murray was phenomenal last night, especially in the first period. He made 10 saves on 10 shots, but a lot of those were high-danger chances.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's what we talked about in the postcast. Like, this was different for Matt Murray because he was able to make multiple big saves in multiple big moments. It's not like he had one or two, but a few got away from him, and that is what ultimately cost him the game. No, he stood tall. And even there were some times, Ross, where he gets balled over. And like for Matt Murray, usually that's not a good sign. Like we've seen anytime he usually takes big contact, it's one of those where you're like wincing and you're like, oh, is he going to be okay? But he stood strong, and that Dylan Dubé play, it was kind of a 2-on-1. He cuts across the net and then does a drop pass behind him to fool Jacob Bernard-Docker and sends it over to Ritchie. But Matt Murray gets over there, makes the save, and takes the big physical force of a guy running into him. And he stands tall, and he had to make a couple good saves. A couple reasons why Matthew Tkachuk's frustrated. Sure, he gets that tip goal, but there's a couple other opportunities he had to put the puck in the back of the net, and Murray stood tall. So absolutely an amazing game by Murray, and he's well deserving of the bike helmet. Safety first.
Safety first for Matt Murray. That's effing Sens hockey, boys. Let's keep it rolling. And what I thought was his best save of the night, I talked about this in the postcast, but I'll mention it quickly, was that low to high play in the second period. It was I don't know who had the puck, but the way that he got across and did not allow a rebound, I think I'd had a beer last night when I said that that's the one single attribute that's most important to the Senators' success this season. But I'm not kidding.
Him and Clark Bishop.
Right. Yeah. But when Matt Murray's on his game and he is standing tall,
Yeah.
that's just what he is. He's a big 6'4" Tandy who can move around well in the net, and he just needs to really watch the rebounds. And he did in the second half of last night's game. I thought it could have still been 2-2 after the first period. Glad it wasn't. And he went to work after that. So, hey, stick taps to Matt Murray. Really deserves that. His first win in 267 days.
That's insane.
That has to weigh on your mental, doesn't it?
Big time. Yeah. And I mean, getting sent down, having the team basically use you as a scapegoat, all these things happening.
Pillsy, first NHL win, as we know he picked up one in Belleville.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I mean, I don't think he was expecting AHL stats to be a part of his resume at this point of his career and with his contract. But you know what? Everybody has their own path, right? Sure, a lot of other goalies making over $6 million didn't have to go through what Matt Murray is going through. Don't have the numbers Matt Murray has, but everybody needs a different path, and Matt Murray's needed a lot of things to get to this point. And sure, it's just one game, so let's not go crazy here. He's still 1-6 now, so there's a long way to climb to get back to a respectable kind of stat point. But for him to have this big game and for the team not to play flat in front of him, that was the biggest thing. Like every frigging game Matt Murray starts, it's like the boys are like, well, it's Matt Murray back there. We're just going to take the night off and we'll get next game. Right. And that can't happen. And it really feels like, I don't know, like looking at quotes and post-game interviews and stuff, like it seemed like Matt Murray was kind of not really connected to the team before. But I just got the sense from this game and maybe all the practice time and time being spent together and not a whole lot to do, you end up forming better relationships, and maybe the reset to Belleville and everything was what he needed to kind of reflect on himself and what he needs to do to get better and help the team out. And it seems like he's a bigger part of this team than he was before. Again, small sample size, but that's just kind of the vibe I was picking up here.
Yeah, let's hope it can continue, because it's obviously a huge part of any success that Ottawa is going to have throughout the remainder of this season. As Nick Paul said, let's go on a run. We want to go on a run. A little premature maybe, as they're 20 points out of a playoff spot, but they also have 6 games in hand. So you win all 6 of those, all of a sudden, it's only 12 points.
I was going to say, all of a sudden, you're looking at 25th in the league.
Anyways, hey, it's entertaining hockey. We're glad that they're playing well. And I want to ask what you think Nick Paul's next contract could look like. And that line he played on last night was on fire, with Alex Formenton, Connor Brown, and Nick Paul all earning 2-point nights. But does that make it more difficult to put Stützle back there on Saturday, or does Timmy get his own line mates? We'll get into all that right afterward from our friends at Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. You know we love Built Bar here on the Locked On Podcast Network, but it's not without reason, because at BuiltBar.com, you can see all the great products available for your health, because they taste great, but they also provide you the energy you need to get on with your day. Yes, Built Bars are the protein bars that taste like candy bars. I recommend the Mix Box. So go there right now, BuiltBar.com. Get the Mix Box of Built Bar. They're soft and easy to chew, 100% covered in chocolate, low calorie, low sugar, high protein, high fiber, and we've got a 15% promo code. So use LOCKED15 for 15% off your next order. It's Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. BuiltBar.com, promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your next order. All right, Pillsy, we're wrapping up a 4-1 victory for the Ottawa Senators. They're back in action on Saturday night in Edmonton. And hey, here's a little stat for you. Drake Batherson, more points per game this season than Mark Stone.
Wow. Well, I mean, Mark Stone has missed a lot
points
of time.
Per game, Pillsy. Per game.
Still, I think it takes a while for him to get back up to speed, but that is a very impressive stat. And Drake Batherson going to the All-Star game. You'll love to see that. And just quickly, Ross, last time Drake Batherson was at an All-Star game, as our buddy Sens prospect pointed out, yeah, AHL All-Star, sure. But how about scoring 5 goals at the All-Star game? Is that good? I'm not sure. So
what was the final score, though?
Of the AHL All-Star game?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Was it like 24-17, or was it like, did he have 5 of 7 goals?
You'll have to forgive me, Ross, if I don't have the full box score of a 2017 or 2018 AHL All-Star game in front of me, but I do know that Batherson had 5 goals.
Batherson. I'm so intrigued by that. Well, I
It was
looked that up.
5-0.
It was fine. Yeah. He was joined in that All-Star game. He won All-Star MVP. So that leads me to believe it was the 2019 All-Star game. He's looking good there. He's got Wally with him as well.
Yeah.
They win the game. Anyways, they're not making it very easy for me to find out the score of the game. They also want a shootout. So whatever. MVP of the AHL All-Star game, Drake Batherson, and he's about to add NHL All-Star to his resume. My favorite part of the conversation he had with the media is he says he's never even been to Vegas. Like he hasn't played there with the Sens, and he's just never been there in his life. So he's like, yeah, I heard a lot about it.
Yeah, hey, Drake, it's a good time in Vegas, that's for sure.
Drake Batherson jersey sales right now, skyrocketing. Have to. This guy's quickly becoming an all-time fan favorite.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, now you can't even use the excuse like, I don't know, he's not signed long-term. This guy is signed long-term to arguably one of the greatest contracts in the NHL. Now, I know that's a bit of a hyperbole, but I would challenge anyone to show me a better contract. Like, it's insane what this guy's doing. And he's just at the beginning. Like, he's only going to get better. And right now, as I'm sure you're thinking, Ross, like, it's crazy that the Sens are only paying him, what, $2.5 million this season?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it's a backloaded contract. Yeah. He's making 2.5.
Like, the cost per point there must be through the roof.
Oh, yeah. Melnick is leaning back in his lounge chair, checking that out. No question. And just the vibes he brings to the rink every day, that whole top line, they're unbelievable. So then once you have a crispy top line, and that term is sticking with us for the rest of the year. Yeah. I'm feeling a little less than crispy today after my third shot yesterday. That being said, when you have a great first line, then you need to work on your second line. And last night, that second line provided a ton of offense for this team. Connor Brown, breakaway goal, really put the icing on the cake at that point, putting them up 4-1 at the start of the third period. Because they had just scored to make it 3-1. They inched back a little bit, and then Connor Brown's like, no, I'm going downtown and putting it right back of the net. So Brownie had 1-1. Nick Paul has 2 goals, and Alex Formenton 2 assists. Do they play together on Saturday in Edmonton?
This is the question. And Ross, I feel I've tinkered back and forth on this, and I love both options, which is good problems to have, right? But I think ultimately you put Timmy back there. And I know maybe that seems crazy when a line has chemistry like this, but I don't see another fit for Timmy. And I don't think it's fair for him to be like, okay, you got COVID, you lost your spot, right? Like, he hasn't really done anything wrong. And he's a young kid trying to learn how to play center in the league. He needs reps, and now's the time to get those reps. So I think that that's the way you go. And then you move Nick Paul back down to that the third line, him, Gambrell, and Watson, and he's got newfound confidence, right? And hopefully he can get the third line going. Like you talked about, first line crispy, second line hopefully still crispy with Timmy coming in. Let's get that third line a little golden and crispy. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, I could see that, but I'm of the mind that you at least leave them together for the first period. See if they can continue the magic. And then,
but where do you put Timmy then?
Timmy, I throw him at third line center, because if he's not, especially if he's not playing top 6, then I want Timmy in the middle of the ice.
So you're playing Timmy with Watson?
No, and Watson's moving down. Watson's where Sabrin was in last night's game. He got absolutely pummeled, by the way. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Milan Lucic.
Why do people fight guys like Lucic and Chara? Like, nobody comes out on top.
Yeah, I think this is all fighters code, right? Like, it was just Lucic gave him a fight, I think, last season, and that's what Sabrin was looking for. So Sabrin says, hey, your team's down 2-0. I'm at an offensive zone draw here. Great time to give you a fight here. But that's just one of those things. He's an older veteran guy. You give him that back. So I don't blame Sabrin there. And let's be honest, that's kind of what he was brought up to do, is to, if Lucic wanted to fight someone, fight Scott Sabrin, our fourth line right winger, not Brady Tkachuk, our captain and franchise player.
Yeah, well, later on in the game, it was Sanford taking a ride from Nikita Zadorov. You see that at the end of this one? He got a 10-minute misconduct too.
Sanford can get under people's skin. Like there's so many games where near the end of the game, teams are livid with him. And I mean, I guess that's something he's doing well. We haven't seen much from him since his hat trick a long time ago. So at least he's aggravating other teams' players, and good on him for not taking the bait there and just being the ragdoll.
So my third line to start the game in Edmonton would be Tim Stützle at center with Zach Sanford at left wing and Tyler Ennis on the right side. And that would leave a fourth line of Gambrell, Watson, and why am I forgetting?
Paul.
Paul
would be second line center.
Paul,
Yeah,
Paulie's up on my second line. Tierney would be the other guy. Very forgettable season for Chris Tierney. He was so good in his first year with Ottawa. He had like 40 assists.
And at the start of each season, he's an absolute superstar.
Yeah. Anyways, he can still find his way into this lineup that's missing a few key pieces right now. Hopefully, it's crazy that I'm even saying this, but I'd prefer to see Gaudette in the lineup getting a chance over Chris Tierney, because you just know what you have in Tierney. It's just not even bringing it in the faceoff circle, really. 25% last night. Like, they're studs in the faceoff circle. I thought Josh Norris was a little quiet overall, but still almost 70% in the dot. Yep. Nick Paul does it all, 57% in the dot, 2 goals, 5 shots on goal, and Pilsy. DJ Smith rode the hot hand. That second line, who I called the third line yesterday morning, said they ended up playing the most minutes of anybody on this team. So I can appreciate DJ going back to what worked. Nick Paul led this entire forward core with 20 minutes and 9 seconds, which prompts the conversation. What do you do as he ends his contract? A bridge deal. He was making a 2-year contract at, I believe it was 1.2. I know 1. He's making 1.35. Okay, so he's making 1.5 in real money this year. 1.35. Like, what's a fair deal? Because teams are going to be calling. I don't know what they'll offer, but teams will be calling, because he would be a great add to any team going on a run.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, if you're a Stanley Cup contender, picturing Nick Paul in your bottom 6 is massive. Like that.
But what do you give up for a bottom 6 forward? I think he's more valuable to the Sens than he is for a draft pick.
Agreed. Yep. And that's what I've said all along. Like, Ross, even when you said you trade Nick Paul for a first, I hemmed and hawed about it, which sounds crazy.
I would still trade him for a first round pick.
I'm still of the mind. I don't know if I would do that, because what do you hope, like, with a late first round pick is probably what you would get. You're just hoping to find an 19-year-old. Yeah, that in 5 years can turn into Nick Paul. So I don't like that thinking, because they need Nick Paul now. And I think he's just such an important part of this culture that you don't trade him. And I feel like he wants to stay there. Like, we were talking about it off air, Ross. Like, man, if you're Nick Paul, you grinded to get to where you were. When DJ Smith said, get a house, buddy, you're staying up here, that must have been an incredible moment for him. He gets a big boy contract. He gets a letter on. He's used up and down the lineup in all situations. And I feel like he gets along well with these guys. So I don't see a better opportunity if you're Nick Paul. So I think you're looking at a 3-year deal, somewhere between 2 and 3 million. As long as it's less than 3 million, because you can't overpay your bottom 6 guys. You just can't do it. So they need to make sure they get this contract right. And yeah, like, he's making 1.35. So if he ends up somewhere 2.5 mil, that's basically doubling your contract there, math guy. So that's pretty good if you're in Nick Paul's shoes. And if you do a short-term deal, he's still in his late 20s. He can scoop up another nice contract.
Yeah.
So I think it makes a lot of sense. I would like them to get this deal done during the season, just so they can kind of squash the trade rumor things. Yeah. And that's one less contract we're worried about when training camp starts next season. So I'm all for keeping Nick Paul. There's not many trades you could convince me that are worth it, because like I said, as soon as you trade Nick Paul away, the first thing you think of is, how do we get a Nick Paul type player now? So why do it? So
I'm still on record, and I will stay. If someone offers you a first round pick, you take that. Just, it's a lot of value, and you got him as a 4th round pick, kind of a throw in at the time. Although maybe not a throw in.
Yeah, I was going to say not a throw in.
No, that's discrediting Brian Murray, and we can't do that. Rest in peace. It was Alex Chason, Nick Paul, and I think a 2nd round pick beyond that. So they clearly have, and for Jason Spezza, if anyone doesn't forget, back in 2014. So no, Nick Paul, he's grown with the organization. And I think if you're Nick Paul, maybe you're more inclined to just take the Sens offer. Not that they're going to lowball him, but where's he going to get the same opportunity and the same level of leadership that he's been able to show here? Like, not a whole lot of guys who are on a 2-year, $1 million contract get to wear a letter in the NHL day in and day out. He's an Ontario boy. He actually grew up playing for the Mississauga Senators minor hockey. So this guy was just born and bred to be an Ottawa Senator, grind out in Binghamton, in Belleville. This guy's taken a long path to get here, and I think it would just be a shame to see all that progress go away. Like, similar to JG Pageau, a guy who grinded all the way out, but you got a first and a second for him. Like, at some point, the value, you just have to kind of look around and be like, all right, if they're going to overpay, like, then allow them to. But we're getting a lot of great people writing in on Twitter at Send Central, and we asked, what would be your final offer to pending UFA Nick Paul? This seems like it was ripe for a poll, but we decided to go the route, and we're actually getting a lot of people write in. So Jimmy Strutron, great name. He writes in 3 years at $2 million maximum, says he loves him, but a bottom six guy, and that's where the value is. Like, if Nick Paul at $3+ million, he loses his value, and eventually the fan appeal, he thinks, because then you've got people, then saying, wait, why isn't he producing offensively like a guy making $3 million should? So that's one school of thought. Another school of thought is, well, we're getting a lot of people just writing in numbers, and most of them are of the same ilk. Like, we got 3x3, 3x2.5, 3x2.5, 4x3.75. Fiesta Zub absolutely loves and needs to keep Nick Paul. And then Al's writes in 5x4 million. Dump Tierney if you can. Well, Tierney pending UFA, so you don't have to worry about him following this season. You got the potential 1/3 buyout on Colin White, but we'll see, because Colin White's more and more runway. As Angus Crookshank told us, he's getting a bit closer. And now with all these postponed games, you could get a good sample size and see what Colin White could bring to this team going forward. But again, that the tempting part here is that if you buy him out this summer, it's only at 1/3 of the cost rather than your typical 2/3.
That's the whole thing, right? I think, and that's where it makes a little bit more sense to look at the Colin White buyout option than any other player. And it's unfortunate because I think White is a good glue guy, but that contract was premature, and Mark Stone no longer plays for the Sens.
Last one here of the replies, and go have your say at Send Central. Joe Albert says, a couple people already mentioned that 3x3 feels right. It's affordable enough to hold through the duration and won't break the bank for another team in case the Sens decide to trade him during those years. So, and Sens Army _11 says 3x3, but he would still explore a trade if he continues playing well. He may garner a late first on a team to a trade to a team contending, like Tampa going on another run. He mentions Tampa, but again, he's so valuable to the Ottawa Senators and a great guy to have in the locker room to help these young players get along. So if I was a betting man, I would say he would re-sign with the Ottawa Senators.
And I don't see a team shelling out a first, Ross. I think that's probably a little much. Like, I could see a second, but a first, that's usually when you're looking at a high-impact rental.
Paul Gostad got traded for a first. I don't remember that back in the day. Minnesota picked him up from Buffalo. I was like, what? But you see it sometimes, these tricks or these trades where you're like, huh? But that being said, I don't want to see him trade. It wouldn't be a happy day on this show if Nick Paul gets traded, because the guy does it all. You know what does it all when you're looking to gamble? And you got to be responsible with this. But hey, betonline.ag, it's the #1 sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network, and we are going to hook you up with a promo code. That is Locked On. Promo code Locked On gets you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just like that. You put in $100, bingo, bango, bongo, 50 free play dollars right there in your account. You put in $200, boom, that's $100 that you can use to make real money. All you got to do is pick your favorite team, you pick your favorite line, your props, your over-unders, anything you want to gamble on. When it comes to the world of sports, you can do that at betonline.ag. So don't sit on the sidelines anymore. Get into the action. And don't forget our promo code Locked On gets you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. It's BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Pillsy. So, can you believe it? Tomorrow's an Ottawa Senators game day. They go right back in action, back to Edmonton, where the team initially flew to Alberta.
Yes.
That game gets postponed. They go to Calgary. They practice in the Alti for a few days, and now they're back to Edmonton. What are you expecting to see tomorrow night?
Well, yeah, first off, it's crazy, Ross, to be doing a game recap and a game preview in the same episode once again. What a time to be alive. It's Sens hockey is back. The Sens are in session. You got to love it. And I'm a little worried about this one, not going to lie. Flashbacks of the Oilers, specifically Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, just feasting on the Sens are very tough, very triggering for me. So that's tough. Hopefully, Matt Murray's newfound confidence, the boys coming off a big win, Saturday night game, that'll get you fired up as well. And if they're in that locker room, they got to be saying to themselves, Ross, bulletin board material, like the Edmonton Oilers are looking at us as like, okay, this is a weak team. We can leapfrog and get back to where we want to go. Like it's like almost the Sens are like an easy reset button. Yeah, don't let them have that. Use that to fuel yourselves and be like, all right, boys, we're going to keep playing Sens hockey and we're going to disappoint these guys. We're going to play spoiler here. So that's what I want to see. And if we can keep Connor McDavid and or Leon Draisaitl to not have multi-point nights, that would be a huge success. So let's start with that.
Yeah, it's a great place to start. Edmonton is ravaged with injuries and players on the COVID list. Connor McDavid will be back from his stay on the COVID protocol list. I think that their whole team will be by tomorrow. It's 5 days now, right?
Yeah, depending on your symptoms, right? Like, remember, I think it was Forsberg. He was through 5 days, but he still had symptoms, so it went a little longer. But I think the kind of league standard is 5 games, yeah.
All right, so everyone will be back. They had 4. They had 12 players on the COVID protocol list. Actually, there's going to be one player who's still on it. Kyle Turris was placed on it on January 12th. So no Turry redemption game. Fun fact about Kyle Turris, he's never scored a goal against the Ottawa Senators, the only team in the NHL he hasn't scored against. Yeah.
That's shocking because like he spent a fair amount of years away from the team now. Even in his first years with Arizona, he never did?
No, well, they would have only played Ottawa every once in a while, right?
Fair.
Yeah, 0 goals in 14 games against the Ottawa Senators. He has a goal against every other team in the league that he's played.
Seattle.
He's played. So that's why I paused. I was looking for Seattle on his log. Funny enough, his hometown team, the Vancouver Canucks, he has 1 goal in 27 games against them. So I don't know what it is, but the pressure playing at home or what, because obviously Ottawa was a second home for Kyle Turris. We'll never forget all the great things he did on and off the ice in his time in the nation's capital. Speaking of the nation's capital, the canal's open, so go have a skate. That's awesome. I'm hoping to get home and head on to the canal and do that skate from Dow's Lake all the way down to Parliament one of these weeks coming up here in the next while. Okay, back to the preview of tomorrow's game against the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, you can't preview an Edmonton game without talking about Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Just head and shoulders above everybody else on their team. It's not even close, Pilsy. What do you do to not stop them? Because that's a fool's errand. How do you mitigate the damage they're going to cause?
I think you asked me this last year, Ross, and I honestly...
And then they went 0-9.
I don't know. Like, I can't even, like, make up some, like, chip pucks in or, like, some hockey cliche just to kind of cover my ass and keep the segment going here. I literally don't know what they can do to stop Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, Ross. The rest of the NHL doesn't know what to do to stop these guys. They're literally 1-2 in points in the league, and I think they're tied. Like, so they're literally 1-1 with, last I checked, 53 points. So there's not much you can do here. You could just hope. You can't stop them. You can only hope to contain them. That's why I said let's hope they don't both get multi-point nights, because it's almost inevitable that they'll get at least 1 point. So I don't know, Ross. That's a long way just to say I got nothing.
So at the start of last season, Owen Nolan in 92-93, that was the first year the Senators had a team. He had the most points in a single season against Ottawa. He played 8 games, had 16 points. Last year, all right, Austin Matthews had 17 points. That's
Why are you doing this again, Ross?
Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl each had 21 points in 9 games. 21 points in 9 games, Pilsy. Leon Draisaitl had 10 goals in 9 games, plus 12, no penalty minutes, and 29 shots on goal. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I told you I was triggered by this. I don't
I
want to
know.
talk about the Oilers and the Senators last season.
Okay, last thing from it. Both of those guys, they each had 2 game-winning goals. So they went 4-0 just off game winners from those two. But
And I
obviously,
mean, game winners, what? That's when it was 1-0.
yeah,
And that's a game winner of a
100%.
6-0 game or something like that. Sheesh.
But the Oilers, like for all of what we're doing, talking about their best players, like this is a team that one hasn't played since January 5th. They lost to the Toronto Maple Leafs there 4-2. They've got 2 wins in their last 13 games.
Yeah.
They've allowed 50 goals in their last 13 games.
They're down bad. Yeah.
So you have to put pucks on net. Key to victory.
And talk about scapegoating a goalie. The Matt Murray thing was kind of like a passive-aggressive way of doing this. Dave Tippett literally said our goalie was the problem. And then the goalie fires back and is like, I can't score goals. You've only scored 7 goals in the last 6 games. And now there's kind of a weird tension going on there. Connor McDavid is telling Oilers fans that we don't care what personalities we're bringing in. We just need to win games. Like, that's not a good look either when you're looking at them and signing Evander Kane, which I do think he is going to end up there. It makes the most sense for everyone involved. But this Oilers team is in disarray because they cannot miss the playoffs this year. Like, if they miss the playoffs this year, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, there's going to be massive changes. So if the Sens could just play spoiler, and we love seeing that, I think it would be a good victory. And hey, Nick Paul wants to go on a run. Tie 2 games together, win both games in Alberta, and let's go.
Let's go. And as of now, the Senators have a home game on the schedule afterwards next week against Buffalo before going on another 3-game road trip.
That's another down bad team. They have 4 goalies on long-term IR right now.
Wow. And they had probably the worst goaltending going into the year.
Those 4 goalies would not be any team's third stringers, really. I mean, Craig Anderson.
Come on, man. Greatest goalie in franchise history. But again, 39 years old at this point. This is going to be a real tough road trip, though. Like, Columbus just beat the wheels
off. God, they embarrassed the Hurricanes. 6-0. Freddie Anderson looking like the old Freddie Anderson there.
Yeah.
Freddie Lalime.
And then they've got Washington and Pittsburgh. I did that in reverse order, but like Pittsburgh's been unbelievable this year. Washington's top of the league.
Back.
So you've got
Ovi's out. Malkin's back, but Ovi's out. So
all right.
Give and take there. And Ovi, we know, absolutely destroys the Sens. But in that same breath, so does Malkin.
Yeah. And then there's another opportunity at home. Ottawa actually plays Edmonton here coming up in a little while. When do we have Edmonton? On January 31st as well on home ice. So 2 matchups here this month.
When these games are getting rescheduled soon, right? Like, there's 12 games they got to squeeze in here. Like, and we're approaching February very fast here. So we got to get these announcements soon here.
Yeah, I heard teams are starting to get the mock schedule.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see, because that Olympic break is sneaking up. And stick taps officially to Jake Sanderson for being named to Team USA. We did a full episode on that after Brad Schlossman reported it mid last week. Pilsy, we should be on our way to the Palace on the Prairies right now. We will make that up, because we can't be this close, have the Nodak Sens right there, and not be able to go to the Ralph.
But Ross, should I tell everyone the situation? Our tickets are moved to February 11th.
Without asking.
And they're no longer playing Omaha on that date. It's Colorado College. And Ross, the hockey gods hate you, and they are smiting you, because Jake Sanderson will not be there for when our tickets got rescheduled. So if that's the case, if that's the only time, and if that's when we're going, you will not be able to see Jake Sanderson once again.
I'm gonna fly wherever their
Beijing?
Wherever their tournament game is. I think that'd be
you got to go
fun.
to Beijing. Actually, I think that's the new play, Ross. Cut your losses and just make sure you're heading to Beijing.
Yeah, that's where I want to get stuck for 5 weeks. Yeah, okay. No, but I feel like the NCHC, the Frozen Face-Off, it'll be somewhere like Minnesota or around there. And Minnesota, I had no idea before I moved to Winnipeg. Minneapolis is a 6-hour drive. It's like Ottawa, Toronto, just a little bit more. So
classic Canadian being like, I didn't realize it was only 6-hour drive.
Yeah. No, and I also didn't realize how far Alberta was, because after our trip got
Yeah,
canceled.
when you suggested
I was
that,
like,
I
hey, why don't
thought
we
you
just
were off
drive?
your
Why don't
rocker.
we just drive to Alberta? Yeah, it's like
Yeah, that's a
14
14-hour
hours.
drive. Yeah. And I was supposed to do that after flying to Winnipeg at 4:30 in the morning and then a casual 13-hour drive. Yeah. But it would have been worth it. That was a sick
It
W.
was a sick win, and then we would have gotten to go up to Edmonton. Who doesn't want to go to Edmonton January 15th, right?
Mm.
But hey, the Sens got business to take care of up there. Who's your
Business
locked
trip.
on player?
Yeah, I'm going to go Nick Paul again.
Again! He's
Like-
doubling down.
Yeah, like why wouldn't you? This guy's hot. He's feeling it. He's getting contract talks, contract rumors going. There's no better time to be Nick Paul right now. And like you said, DJ Smith is a hot hand guy. Like
Yeah.
he's definitely that kind of guy. So I would not be shocked if he gets that opportunity and hopefully can keep things going. So yeah, you know what? I'm sticking with Nick Paul.
All right. If it ain't broke,
Yeah.
don't fix it. And I can appreciate that for you. I'm going to go with Brady Tkachuk because I think that top line's got an extra gear from what they showed. I mean, Drake Baston was one of my standouts last night, but that being said, I think the whole line has another gear to get to. I think that Brady's
gonna
going to
need
take it personally, how the last season played out
Yep.
between these two teams. So not only that, but the last man standing or last man in award to get into the All-Star game, Brady Tkachuk's on the ballot. So,
Yep.
hey, go stuff those ballots online. You can do that. We'll tweet out the link at Send Central on Twitter. But also, he's got to produce. He had that great hot streak, and now it's been a few games where, yeah, he's still playing all right, but I think he's got an extra level to get to. So let's see if he can accomplish that against the Edmonton Oilers. Why not go with the leader after literally going 0-9 last year? You know they're going to take that personally, and I'll have a keen eye on Matt Murray as well. All right, who's your lookout player? And let's avoid McDavid and Draisaitl, because if you're not looking for those guys, it's going to be 8-0 in a hurry.
Yeah, and you're going to see him out there, that's for sure. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go, this one is just, I don't know, it's just random, but what's up with Cody Ceci these days? Like I'm just from a curiosity standpoint, I'm going to be looking out for him because how is this guy still so wanted by teams? And he's getting contracts and he's played a ridiculous amount of NHL games. And I loved seeing him fail in a Leafs jersey, but now I'm kind of cheering for the guy. Like, you know, he's paid his dues, and let's see how he's doing in an Oilers jersey.
Yeah, I'll go with another new Oiler, former Maple Leaf. I'm going to be taking a look at Zach Hyman, who's got 15
I thought you were going Tyson
points.
Barrie on that one.
He's got more points against the Ottawa Senators than any team in the National Hockey League not named Montreal. So
Wow, yep.
there's that in terms of his history. But just like the style that he plays, like if it's going to be a grinded out game, he's the kind of guy who could have an impact. So I'm hoping he doesn't, but I think that Zach Hyman could be a guy I got to look out for in tomorrow's game. But I'm also going to be keen to watch the Oilers' defensive core, who they added Duncan Keith and Cody Ceci to, and said, all right, let's go. And I should say
we're good.
A 38-year-old Duncan Keith. If they added a 28-year-old Duncan Keith, that's a different conversation. But clearly at the end of his career, and for me, it's just like, that's how you thought you were going to build a contender. So I want to see if Ken Holland's an evil genius or if he's just over the hill, because this decor is something else.
Yeah, it's I don't know about this decor, that's for sure. And then couple that, Ross, with the decision to be like, all right, Smith and Koskinen, bring it back. This is gonna work this time.
Let's run it back.
Oh God, that is tough. So yeah, this game against the Oilers is gonna be very, very interesting, and I would crush the over on this one, Ross. I think a lot of goals are getting scored here. If we're looking at our betonline.ag vision here, Crush that over. Although, I mean, you might want to fade me. Maybe hit the under.
Are you still cold?
Yeah, I'm kind of cold. Yeah, I've been on the sidelines, but I've been picking up some shekels elsewhere in the NFL, so I've made my way back. Yeah,
big Bengals guy on deck. You got a prediction for this weekend end off? Head into the weekend feeling good?
Oh, the Bengals are gonna destroy the Raiders. I won like $200 having them division winners. And Ross, I got a $10 bet that is going to turn into 1,000 when they win the Super Bowl. How does that sound?
Have they even seen the Super Bowl before?
No,
let alone win it.
They have been to a Super Bowl, but we're way off topic now. The Bengals have not won a playoff game since like 1992 or something wild like that. They went like 5 straight years losing the first game of the playoffs. So this is a big time for me as a football fan.
Well, there you go. So you can settle into that in the afternoon. And then you got Senators at
gonna be a
Oilers
great
tomorrow
day.
night. And we are going to be back for the postcast following the game. The postcast is unbelievable. We had, I think it was like 150 people concurrently
Oh, it was a
last
blast.
night at the
Yeah.
same time. Awesome stuff. The wins just make the vibes so immaculate. And on the weekend, you know, we'll have a few wobblies in us as well. So you loved all of that. Hope you enjoyed today's show as well, because we're wrapping up a great win. Leave in the comments, thumbs up. Appreciate that. Subscribe. And what would you pay Nick Paul? That's my question of the day right now. We'll put that on the thumbnail as well, because that guy is one valuable piece of this organization. For today, we say goodbye to another valuable piece of the organization, Brandon Pillar. I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.